Yep, shoutouts to the 108 of Input Break. All right. So today we'll be seeing Ari and Doc's race, whose skill and RNG will win with their pace. To find two friends, waifu and trash, may never miss and always bash. Q, hi, how's it going? I'm with Q, and Uko will be on commentary as we explain the strats in the Incility area. From own it to Threed and destroy the 10th fort. If you got a favorite, time to show some support. Earthbound can be quite brutal, making you feel like it's all futile. When cultists call for help and makes things scary, safe or risky fights can always get hairy. But for now, the game has begun. So here's to the runners. Good luck on the run. How you doing today? Well, I'm sorry, I thought it was Uko. I guess it's Alti. Whoops. How you doing?
One second, I'm having a problem hearing you. Not for me, I don't know if that's just on my end, so give me a second. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this race. It should be a good one. Both Doc and Ari have been in the community a while and do multiple different categories, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this race plays out.
Yeah, I think the issue is on your end, friend. So both of our racers will be going out and grabbing the cracked bat and equipping said bat. Let's just save some text and some time later on. Before we go out and see our third best friend in the run, Pokey. Because, we're a kid. We're a young elementary school kid, and we're like, hey, there's a big crash outside. Let's go check it out. In this case, we really want to do as much optimal movement as possible through this entire section. Little bits do help, such as like the wall gliding that you're seeing right now, which does save a couple frames when you do it adequately. And you're just trying to make sure your movement is as clean as possible without bonking. Anytime you bonk, you essentially lose 1 second during these walks, so optimal movement is very important. More on that is with the RNG manipulation route, which is not done during this tournament because, again, the differences between RNG manipulated and non-RNG manipulated, especially for just ONET, is a large difference, up to 10 minutes or so. But it's good to practice the optimal movement anyway. So once we get back, after talking to Pokey, he tells us not to rubberneck because, we're bugging the police apparently, but he's not. We'll be sent to bed, and we'll be like, well, that's strange. I'll check it out in the morning. Not a big issue. Looks like there's a problem on Ari's end, but... hopefully that fixes soon. And this is where we introduce one of the first tech of the game, of Earthbound. And that tech of the game is optimal mashing. Because what you want to do is always have an input coming in whenever the first possible opportunity is, when you're going through lines of text, or if you're doing menuing. Optimal mashing is important. And it's to the point of you've got 4 different buttons that you can use to mash optimally. You've got L and A for acceptable commands for basically auto say yes. Then you've got B and select for auto say no. And you can use any combination for any sort of like text mashing. In fact, some runners will use all 4, some runners will only use 2, some will use 3, but you can do that. It looks like Ari's internet kind of has fixed itself. He did say that he was having issues with his router before the race began. He tried to do a restart, so hopefully this holds for the entire thing, although I just commentator cursed it. I apologize. So there's 3 different types of enemies you can see on this first walk up to the meteor. There's the crows, which kind of move in this swivel pattern. Left, right, left, right, left, right, and you're going to try and take advantage of it as you move through, getting caught on stuff. You got the dogs, who kind of just charge after you. You got the snakes, who are stutterable. Yeah, crows can be quite an annoyance, but I think what he's trying to do was trying to get that dog stuck on the lower platform there for Doc. First, you're going to want to try and take the dog most likely, and the reason is the dog is, in addition, it can drop a bread roll, but it's the easiest fight out of the matter. The crow has super high speed and is really annoying. Can steal stuff if you've got stuff, and the snake can stun you for turns. So you typically want to just take the dog if you're going to take any of the fights.
Testing. Am I no longer a robot?
Destroy all humans? No, I think you're good.
All right, well, welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm now here and no longer artificially intelligent.
Hey. Artificially intelligent beats intelligent. I'm sorry, not intelligent. So yes, we just got DoctorSwellman is just getting Buzz right now. Ari just grabbed Picky, so he's only a couple seconds behind.
Yeah, and up through here it's pretty standard. You're not going to see a lot of variance, and if you do, then doesn't really matter at this point. Really, the question becomes who can get out of Wonetti and who can do it fast. And some of that's luck, a lot of it's skill. So we're just going to see how both of these guys do under the pressure.
This is Earthbound. Anything can and will kill you, even when you don't think it can. Sometimes it just finds a way.
So you see Doc grabbing the bread roll and heading to the first Starman fight. Now, we say cycles in this fight. Really, every cycle is 2 iterations where Buzz will do a alternating shield and attack. You would hope that it would ideally be done in 2. Oftentimes it doesn't happen. I've seen as high as 5 rounds. So basically just going to auto fight through it, mash text as quickly as he can, and hopes he gets out of it before preferably 2 or 3 rounds would be great.
Ideally, you pretty much want to get to the Starman fight 7-8 minutes. Basically you want to get any time before 10. If you're at 10 minutes, you've probably just had a rough time either getting up to the meteor, or Buzz missed a couple attacks. You've overmashed, you bonked. There's things that you can clean up.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you just get there before your opponent, but I guess I'm easy to please.
Looks like Ari's having some, controller issues would be the best way to put it. The joys of this game.
You're going to see a couple attacks here. So Starman Jr. can either cast Fire, Freeze, or Defend. If he defends, that can actually be really bad if Buzz is attacking on the same round. It can halve his attack. If he charges forward, doesn't matter. Fire takes up a lot of time. Freeze takes up minimal time. A guard, when Buzz is casting a shield, is great. So there's a lot of things that can affect your timing on this battle. And basically, it's all luck at this point.
This is definitely a game where having optimal equipment working for you is great because of how many inputs you have to get in certain timings. Tech like mashing or stuttering is very dependent on your personal skill and also your equipment working for you.
Unfortunately, stutter stepping is not going to be used that much in this run. So it's although it is a skill-based maneuver we use, it's limited really to that hill climb mainly. And so experienced runners that may be more adept at doing that or may have it in muscle memory don't necessarily have the advantage there. I will say that experienced runners usually have the instinctual advantage and that you can't take away, but we've seen in boogie races particularly that anyone can win those. And Doc is, I mean, if you go to experience, wouldn't you say Doc is a little bit more experienced here? He probably has over 3,000 glitchless attempts. But Ari, he runs a lot of categories and is no stranger to this category either. So.
Well, yeah. So this is actually a match between 2-0 runners actually in this group stage. So this one's going to decide the number 1 seed coming out of this group.
I didn't check their groupings though. So the winner of both these guys are moving on though, right? I didn't actually.
Yeah, they're both elected. They were in a group with some commentator who likes to play poorly.
Is that like a self burn there?
Yeah.
Apply freeze beta to burned area on yourself?
No.
So you have to go to that hidden cabin. You may or may not know about it casually, but you get Mr. Baseball Cap there. It's worth $99, which at this phase is actually quite a bit. If you ever had to grind and save up money in order to get the best equipment, we're going to show you kind of an EB life hack to get around that at the expense of only 1 defense point, which is pretty negligible at this point. Now, here's an interesting thing you're going to see Doc do. He's going to bump up against that tree and then walk down to the right. It's actually an off by 1 error in the code of Earthbound itself. It has holes in the triggers that cause spawn plates to have enemies. So if you walk through these holes and you know that they exist, then you can basically get free walks to certain places in the game. And he utilized that above the hospital to get to the first Pogo Punk fight that he wants to grind out. Pogo Punks being the more important one because they have a 100% hamburger drop, which is a healing item that's going to be very important. Nessa's not worried about cholesterol.
Yeah, and there's several options that you can take if you guys want a little more safety in your first learning the run. There's a can of fruit juice on the trash can right outside the arcade. You can also pick up a bag of fries at the burger shop right next to the drugstore. So if you're learning the game, those are safeties to keep in mind. But as they move in, they're going to talk to the yes man, which you will say no to, because that's what you do. Because otherwise he'll say, hey, come back when you beat the game. Inside joke. And then you'll go up to the Frank fight, where Frank has a couple different attacks. He's got says something nasty, which just lowers your guts. He's got a weak attack, and then he's got his knife. We don't ever want to see Frank pick up the knife. If Frank starts picking up the knife, he's going to kill you, eventually.
Yeah, and that's why mashing is extremely important as well, because the mechanic of this game with the death roll is helps us out as runners survive blows that should have killed us. But hopefully you don't have to see that. Hopefully Frank just talks dirty to you for a while, and then you can get out of that battle pretty quick. It's going to take 5 bashes without a smash to get through it, essentially.
Now, the Frankenstein fight is basically, it's fairly well scripted. He always has a cyclical attack, kind of like how we dealt with Buzz and Starman, where the first round he'll always use a burst of steam, and then he will either use a weak attack or tear into you. And you basically always want to heal on the turns that he's going to tear into you when it becomes a threat to you.
Yeah, and actually the first attack he does will always be his weaker attack, so if you know that you can survive about 16 damage-ish, you'll usually wait to heal until his steam round after his first punch as well. Just see if you can get a lucky smash in the battle early. Otherwise, it's going to take you anywhere from 6 to 7 normal attacks to get through the tank portion of that. I think that's one of the more frustrating fights casually when you get to that point, because you think you finally beat Frank, and then all of a sudden he just has this really weird tank with boxing gloves that apparently doesn't shoot things. It just smiles at you and punches you with its tank fists.
So following Buzz's advice, which is, some of the text that you probably didn't see when they're trying to speed through it quickly, he basically tells us we need to get to the 8 different sanctuaries in the game so we can go beat Gigas, or Gygas, depending on how you like to pronounce it. And tells us the first one we want to go is to Giant Step. Now, Giant Step is actually behind a entertainment shack that's been locked. So by defeating Frank and then talking to the mayor, we got the key to that shack so we can finally go up and get our first sanctuary. This is the only sanctuary that will be seen during the Boogie Percent route. So what the runners will do immediately after getting the key is they'll go grab some money, stock up on hamburgers because we're going to need them, and then go up to that sanctuary area.
I would give major props to anyone that did Mondo Mole during a Boogie race and still won, though. It's just a little challenge that I'm going to throw out there to all the potential runners is, if you want to impress Alti, go ahead and do an early Mondo Mole with also winning Boogie.
I'll just need a clever name for that category.
Let's say Doc going to the slug grind. You essentially need to kill 22 enemies during this grind. The quickest ones to kill will be the slugs, so you're going to see Doc farming them out. There's a lot of different tactics you can use to do this. You can either jump in and out of cave entrances. You can do this kind of early back and forth. Ooh, the double pack too that Doc got is really good. So he's going to have 8 right off the bat here, which is good. Best case scenario that he could have had right there.
Yeah, it takes 30 damage to kill each of these slugs. So it's one of those where paying attention to kind of how much you're doing allows you to quickly auto-fight most of these encounters. If you don't do 30 damage on a swing, you typically have to bash through it until you get your first level. That's just so you don't accidentally split damage, as your auto-fight doesn't have the best AI sometimes.
Yeah, and Earthium's not that far behind, so though Doc is now in his second pack of slugs, Aries not going to let it get to him. He's seen this before. I've gone up to 3 minutes without finding a single pack before, so this is too early to really say that Aries is behind. I would say we're going to know a lot more after Titanic Ant, who survives the crits that he's liable to pull off. We see Doc getting his third pack here, so that puts him at 12. Now, it'll be interesting to see what he does and how aggressively he wants to play, because at this point, after level 7, like me personally, I usually like to start heading up to the 3rd floor to look for the 6-pack, which only spawns on the 3rd floor, and I'll try to find one more 4-pack on the way, but that's super aggressive play. The safe way would be either staying on the bottom until you get level 8, or getting at least 16 of those before you start heading up.
Already using cave strats there for spawns. It's an interesting play.
Area using that stuttering, and actually that's a lot harder than it looks at that point, because the more enemies you have on screen, the more lag is caused, and stuttering becomes very erratic. You actually have to change the pace at which you're tapping the D-pad, so the fact that he got around those mice, I don't even know if I could have done that. That was pretty impressive. It
rapidly changes how quickly it changes with the just adding even one more enemy. It gets to a point where you just you feel the lag visibly, even if you never quote unquote felt the lag. When you get up to that point of 6-7 enemies on a screen.
And also another thing is that there's enemies above you a lot of times as well. So what you don't see is the shelf above both the dock right now that you can see usually has anywhere from 4 to 6 enemies just chilling there. As you go back and forth, they just spawn and stay there. And so that causes more lag, which causes more erratic stuttering, which causes more pain and suffering and tears.
Oh, Saltbound, we adore you.
Unfortunately, the rumor of Salt killing slugs, it does not apply to this game, because the more how salty you get, Ness still misses constantly with his baseball bat. You see Doc on the second floor now. He's starting to... Did he get level 8? I don't think he did. No, he did not yet. So he's trying to farm that last pack on the way up. It looks like he found it. So after this, I think he's going to hit level 8. I wasn't counting specifically, but he's fought a lot of slugs.
He might also be going for the optimal strat. But I think you're right. I think this is going to get him level 8. Because the optimal strat, and this is something that Ari always tells me, is like, oh yeah, you get a couple packs on the first floor, then you go up and get 1 pack on the second floor, and then get your 6 pack on the third floor. That's how you clear through it as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is usually you can get to level 7 and then start heading up, and more often than not, it'll work out that you get the optimal 10 on the way up there. Sometimes you'll even get all of them from 4 packs on the way up. It just depends on how your luck is on that particular time.
So the other thing that you'll see the runners do is once they get that all-important level 8, they will check their status. They're looking for 24 attack, and that 24 attack is a very key point because it lets you auto-win against single antoids. And this only applies when you're not ambushed by said antoid.
Yeah, you can see Doc moving on. The butterfly there is about, I don't know the exact spawn play, but it's near 100%. Sometimes it will not spawn, but Doc must have checked and saw he had 23, I'm assuming. I didn't actually see what his attack was.
That'd be the only logical answer. Because otherwise you just take that antoid most of the time. It costs you 6 seconds to just take that fight and let you just kind of move through cleanly.
Yeah, and even a little bit of experience helps, especially as you go through Happy. The sooner you can get levels, the better off you're going to be. Because though levels are random, they're only semi-random as far as the stats you get. And eventually your stats will converge to certain amounts. So the sooner you can get levels, you might actually get another rock in for Carpainter, which is always an added buffer to his tomfoolery that he likes to do a lot by missing you constantly. So, as I tell people, do not mess around. Mother 2 is different, but in Earthbound, do not mess around with any type of attack by really any of the first bosses. Every time they hit you, you need to heal, and that's going to keep you safe. It's so easy to lose track of your HP and just to overmash or overbash and just get wrecked, Ant or Frank. And so, hopefully, we're going to see Doc healing every time he gets struck, which seems to be often. It's kind of a violent ant he's having. But no crits yet, which is upwards of 60 damage that can really hurt you.
Those ant smashes are very unforgiving. Because normally it leaves you in that spot where your HP is low enough that unless you have insane mashing or you sometimes just don't have the HP value that you can mash through another attack if ant wants to get really aggressive on you.
You can see he's used all of his burgers, so he's either going to have to shop for more or go full YOLO versus cops, which I don't think he'll do. But that ant is, oh, there's a smash. Oh, God.
He's got to go YOLO at this point. He's out of psychic points, and he's out of burgers. You just got to go for it.
Oh, that was...
Oh, net.
He couldn't have been far off. He was a few HP off from being eradicated. But he pulled a Morpheus and just dodged that bat like he's in the Matrix. And so that sends Doc all the way back to Mom. So he's going to have to take the photo of shame. So everyone get your fuzzy pixels ready. Get those peace signs ready to be thrown up.
Yep, the fuzzy pickles. Added points if you combo with some Tessie.
But Ari is not necessarily past this yet either. And again, this is such an unforgiving boss, especially as I mentioned. I didn't mean to foreshadow that as much as I did, but the crit can definitely end your ant experience very quickly, which is what happened to Doc. And so now he's out of burgers, he's out of healing items. He's going to have to go refill completely and take that time lost here.
Yep. It's definitely a death that's painful because of how much time it loses whenever you have an ant death between restocking and moving all the way back up, avoiding spawns. It's just unfortunate.
It was like Ari died as well. I don't know. He's cutting in and out, but all of a sudden I see a death screen here. So I don't know what happened.
That's my assumption. He probably had a death to ant as well. So just like that.
Just like that, we back in there. It's now a tie race again.
I don't see any forfeit, so.
Yeah, he might be having connectivity issues, but I have not seen a forfeit yet, so I think we're still in there, at least until we get any official word.
And like it is in this race, for Boogie percent, these early bosses come out to play. These early fights, notorious for killing people. So it's one of those where just going through and just saying, oh, well, I had a death here, no pressure, let's just do this as cleanly as I can for the rest of the run. You can come back and win.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time. So last year in the race, Boogie race, I had 4 strong deaths, actually, in 4 races in a row based on bad luck where a rocket missed or 2 rockets didn't kill him, and then I failed a death roll. 4 in a row, and that means I won 3 of those 4. So you can always come back from a death. But it's just got to keep going on, and you'll be surprised what can happen.
Both players are more than likely to actually finish this because both of these players are set to advance to the actual elimination stage, as their averages of their races will be used for seeding during that stage. So.
Oh, and Ari's back, so you can see he's making his ascent as well. He just got hit by a mouse, but that's not going to be a big deal at this point. He'll just kind of auto-fight that or bash it out. And then, but yeah, so he is still here. We have reconnection, and we'll see who gets past Ant this time.
So another thing that you'll see is sometimes runners will take some time and let the HP meter tick back up. And that's deliberate because if they can bash fast enough, sometimes they can save themselves a little extra HP if they need to heal again rapidly before the next round.
And Doc got his revenge, so he just beat Ants, and now he's ready to get the Sanctuary location, the only one he'll get here, which will give him a full heal and make every enemy in the dungeon run from him. So his descent will be a lot easier. And we see Ari is on 2nd floor now, moving through. Got held up by a couple of rowdy mices. They usually will hit for 1 damage or crit. They have extremely high guts, so you usually get hit for basically nothing, or you get smashed for about 13.
So basically, sometimes those mices will tear you to pieces. The only appropriate response for pretty much all of my jokes. Well done. So, I do have a question for you, Alti, as you are more experienced in this. Normally, you can take it the strong fight as safe as you want to, grabbing as many additional burgers as you can carry. What's your minimum amount would you recommend for people?
Depends on how cocky you are, I would say. Honestly, you could get through with 0 burgers if you wanted to do heal strats, which means you'd have 0 heals for strong. You would just bash it out and then heal with life ups when you needed to, when you got really low. Would not recommend. That is not the safest way to approach that. I would say 6 would be the minimal I would ever recommend. If you are confident, you could do 5 if you're doing double rocking on strong strats. But yes, I would say 6 would be the number that I would go in with if you're not extremely comfortable with the run in general.
Looks like Ari just got through the ant fight, and he's moving on to get his first input break of the game, which is actually pretty short.
Yeah, so for cops, again, there's varying ideas of what's safe. I'll give you this hint, is first group stage I had in this tournament, I got crit by the cops, not even strong, by the cops 3 times in all the battles that I had, the 4 different battles. So they can also hurt you really quickly. So I would say never fall below 60. If you do, heal up. Some people say 50. My number is 60. If you fall below it, heal up. Because as I said, those cops, they crit you, then you're going to be in trouble if you don't have enough bandwidth to roll down and heal.
I'm very familiar with taking deaths during this group stage, but yeah. If you are incredibly lucky, though, sometimes these cops will drop burgers for you, which has come in clutch. I think we've seen on, is it twice or 3 times this run, where a dropped burger from a cop has actually saved a run. So.
Yeah, what is that number? I think it's like 1 in 16. I'd have to look it up, but it's not necessarily extremely high, but you do see it on occasion. It's not rare either.
But yeah, after we deal with the 4 cops of crushing chopness, we get to go meet their boss, Captain Strong. And he's got a couple different attacks. He's got a light attack. He can lose his temper, increase his offense. He can also be on guard, and then finally he can do the very scary submission holds. And quickly choke you out. As your primary option for strategy for him is you want to save 20 psychic points going into strong, use 2 Rockin', and hopefully kill him in 2 turns. But as Rockin' is the only offensive skill that can miss, we're dealing with Ness here, so he'll most likely miss.
Well, not the only offensive skill that can miss, but yes, I know what you're saying. But it's based off a speed equation, and Ness has notoriously low speed. And that's why I can miss an occasion. It's actually, I think, less than a % chance. Again, I'd have to go back to the equation and plug it in, but it's not very likely it happens, but it does. First to tell you that it does. And also, since Strong has 140 HP, and the average amount of damage a Rockin's going to do is probably somewhere around 70, it's also possible with some bad luck you're going to be left a little high and dry with that damage amount. So when going into Strong, the most scary thing I can think of in a race specifically is the cop right before Strong leaves you around 40 to 50 HP. Not quite low enough where you feel like you have to heal, but also kind of scary if he does his submission hold and you're not prepared to get him in 2 Rockin', or the 2 Rockin' don't actually defeat him. It's one of the scariest things I can imagine happening in a race, because then you have to go through the whole entire cop sequence again, and it's one of the biggest time losses you can get in Woe Nutty. You can see Ari choosing to play it safe. Exactly what I said. He was sitting at 48 HP, so he was like, I'll probably just heal this one out and then do the 2 Rockins, which I don't blame him for that at all. That's probably a good decision to be on the safe side. You can see Doc. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, in this game, you can either go safe or risky, but, the game will punish you from time to time, the more risks you take.
Now you can see Doc taking the traditional route here. There's so many different routes you can take through this section. This is generally considered the one that you'll do, which is saving at the phone in the department store and then blood warping after Carpenter back here. But there's a very myriad of strategies, including getting the cup of life noodles in Peaceful Rest Valley, as well as just walking back, doing a cultist death warp from the first fight, and then walking back afterwards. There's just so many different strategies you can use, and every runner seems to have their own flavor of what they prefer or what works for them. But I'd say majority of people just stick to the vanilla department store death warp.
Yeah, the other thing that I like to do is actually trying to set my money so it's 301. Sorry, not 301, excuse me. 401. As it's one of those where just taking the death warp, you're guaranteed to have enough money coming back to revive Paul without having to hit the teller machine again. I just screwed up, sorry. I forgot about the buying in Happy, excuse me.
Basically what you're saying is take all the money out in a boogie percent in Tucson so that hopefully you don't have to stop at the ATM on the way back.
Thank you, that's exactly what I meant.
Because in an Earthbound, when you die, you lose half the money you have on you. And since we're going to be doing an intentional blood warp, you have to assume that half the money you have on you at the time is just gone. So either you have to stop the ATM again, or you have to prepare in advance and get double of what you actually need by the time that you do the death warp.
Yeah, because you need Paul alive by the time you get back to progress stuff in Tucson, so...
Yeah, the story triggers actually require her being alive, or trust me, we wouldn't bother with it. We'd just leave her as a ghost. But her dad apparently doesn't want her returned as damaged goods. I don't know. Apparently he cares about her life or something. So in order to get the Apple Kids' help, like most NPCs in Earthbound, they will trade their kingdom for some carbohydrates. So you can see we give him some food and some money. We just met him, but he looks like a trustworthy individual. And within the time that we go and check this pencil and then walk out, he's been up all night working on his first invention for us.
Yep, and there's actually a pixel trigger that you can hit to spawn the pencil and kind of progress the story through MacGuffin, excuse me. And but if you're still new, the easiest way to tell is if you're not very confident on that particular pixel setting, just get a piece of the pencil on, then go out.
Yeah, and most people say that once you load the pencil into memory, then it's you're able to then turn around and go back. It's actually more of a story trigger, so it's actually a trigger on the map that does it. After some research and investigation, I saw that most of the things in the game are actually triggers on the map and not necessarily something loaded into memory. So that's something interesting that I'm playing around with as I investigate the game code a little bit more. But essentially, you don't have to go up and investigate the pencil. You just have to walk up far enough into Peaceful Rest Valley to trigger the Apple Kid call and then walk out. Dying in this section before triggering the Apple Kid call actually requires you to go back to the cave, enter, and then exit again. So that's why a death warp from here is definitely not possible. You have to walk out the old-fashioned way. And all these mushroom spawns, especially in the tunnels, are sitting around 8%. So you'll see Doc go back into the tunnels here. Like he just hit that 8% spawn plate, and you'd think that they were way higher by the amount that we get them. So there's still some convergence in Earthbound that we don't necessarily understand. Because I've had, specifically in the cave that Doc's in now, I've had to exit and re-enter over 20 times in the worst case scenario. So it's 8%, but maybe not. We just don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing all the stuff that's in this game and stuff that you can actually exploit in the game code. And just watching some of the people doing the manipulated routes, it's just staggering how much work you guys put into it.
You saw Doc walk around that UFO. It's a pretty nice juke. That one was a coin flip in my opinion, and I'm surprised that he went for that one because depending on the RNG of its movements, because it can move sooner or later or take a swooping pattern, there's a lot of different things that UFO can do to you based on its movement patterns. But he went for it in a very scary position, and he got the coin flip. So that one was a risky one. So he has some guts on that one. And you can see Ari now dealing with that, what I call troll tree, and exactly what I'm talking about, that 8% spawn plate. He had to despawn it a few times. So they're actually not too far apart. I'd say a couple minutes at max, but maybe even more like a minute to a minute and a half. So this is still a pretty close race, depending on who gets the better happy.
I'm personally underneath the opinion that unless there's a significant differential, until they get the death warp, nobody's in the lead. Because those cultist fights will kill you when they want to, and sometimes the mole playing rough will just cost you a minute or two if you get incredibly unlucky.
And yeah, and a lot of it comes down to how well you handle that adversity, because one of the most stressful things about Earthbound is once something starts going wrong, it seems like a lot of things go wrong. And so handling bad RNG and not freaking out about it is one of the most defining characteristics of a good runner.
Well, we had the honorable Sudoku of Mr. O.S. Komodo there, so sometimes those snakes just really want to charge you.
Don't step on snake. Don't do it. So area despawning, a traditional strategy you could have used was going around the right side of that little pond there when the enemies were on the left. Now he's starting to do it now. You can see you can kind of move around him that way, then outrun the big tree there, and just hope you don't get sniped on the other side, because at that point you can get pincered there. It's a kind of rare spawn plate, but it can definitely happen. So we'll see if Ari also steps on Snake here, or if no step on Snake. Okay, good job, Ari. So enemies running from you in Earthbound is an interesting equation, and it's partially based on speed. And because of that, those crows, though being level 1, will forever attack you. It does not matter if you're high level as you can be, the game trolls you with the fact that they have high enough speed to just YOLO just towards you, just full blast too. And there's some really weird programming with crows, where sometimes they try to attack you and they end up flying in a random direction. It happens with bats as well. And we call that zoom crow because sometimes that random direction is also at you, but it's really quick. So you don't have time to step out of the way, and crow just kind of gets his way, and you're forced into an encounter.
Oh, this could be bad.
Yeah, fortunately in this route, if you get the Holmes hat, you're basically running what in glitches would be called the hard hat route. You have the same amount of defense as you would if you had the hard hat in a manipulated run. So getting a few extra cultists is not the worst thing in the world at this point. It's the attrition of many cultists over a lot of battles. So the next battle, if that guy starts calling for help, then Doc might be in a lot of trouble.
I guess the other issue I look at is just each time that they do that, you get to the point where you get multiple cultists on screen. Safest strat is just to rocket them. And eventually, they'll just run you out of psychic points or wear you out with enough of them.
Yeah, that's the attrition aspect of it. And the thing also about cultists is there's some enemies in the game due to lazy programming that is impossible to run from, and cultists are one of them. Anything that's in a scripted encounter, essentially, the developers just didn't differentiate and said that you can't run from the battle. So cultists, even random encounters, impossible to run. Same with little slimes, and basically everything you can't run from also seems to be the biggest jerk. And so like slimes, cultists, all these unrunnable encounters can call for help. And all sorts of awful attacks that you can't avoid. So that's why when they call for help, there's going to be no attempts to run. It's just going to be a fight to the last breath. And Doc's coming up to Carpainter. So Carpainter is one of the few fully scripted fights within Earthbound. His cycle will be identical every single time you fight him. And that's going to be a Thunder Beta cast. And then he's going to life up. And then he's going to smack you. And then he's going to cast Thunder Beta again. Then he's going to shield. Then he's going to smack you. And then it just repeats over and over again, that same 2 cycle. And so if he misses you, because you have the Franklin badge, so if he hits you with Thunder, it actually reflects back and dunks on him. And he has 260 HP, so you need a couple Rockins or a couple Lightning Strikes. And once he casts a shield, Rockin doesn't work anymore. So if he does not cast any Thunders that end up reflecting back at you, it gets scary fast. And there's a reflect. And each individual reflect is a 1 in 4 chance. You can see Doc got a pretty nice reflect there, along with a couple Rockins, and then the bash finished him off. And so that was a pretty good Carpainter fight. That's what I was saying earlier about those that early experience that you get could push you past the next level that gives you an extra Rockin, which is what happened to Doc. He only had 1 Rockin available, but after the second cultist fight, he ended up getting that second Rockin based on level up and his psychic points increasing. So that allowed him to get through Carpainter really quickly.
Now there are actually a couple options for taking the death route, or the death warp, and most runners will go over here to the cave and take a fight with the mole after getting Paula. But you can also go up to PRB and take one of the larger fights if you are significantly healthy as well.
And Ari just came back online too, and you can see he's really not that far behind. I would say at this point, I'd give it about 40 seconds. So we got ourselves a race still. Now, cultists are gone, so Happy Village and the small time you're rescuing Paula has now become a friendly, less blue area. Oh, the crow, the troll. And see, that's exactly what I was talking about. The crows programmed to chase after you, but the crows programming didn't know what to do, and so it just kind of ran in a random direction, which in this case was right into the door. And so though it's a level 1 enemy, you can see it just wastes a lot of time for him.
So it looked like Paula may have had a gut save during that death warp, but gets through it pretty cleanly. So he'll be grabbing out $100, going up, reviving Paula at the hospital, and then proceeding to do a bunch of story triggers. Most of the people will grab the backstage pass from the runway 5 as he's moving down to go to Polestar. Then he can talk to the dad, and then finally meet our friend Everdred, who really wants to give us money.
Yeah, Everdred is the one skippable boss in the glitchless run. I guess he's not the only boss technically, if you base off boss rolls, but really the main boss with a name that we can skip. And so mainly in casual, you'll get ganked by him because you'll just be walking around and he just flies off the roof and attacks you. But if you never fight him in the opening section, he's still chilling on the roof. So you're going to see that he's just still hanging out on top of the roof.
That was kind of a gutsy play with that spawn there going into Berglund Park.
Yeah, if anything else though, Doc's done a lot of runs. He has pretty good instincts. Like anyone, he can play a little aggressively at times, but we're all guilty of it. But in most cases, if he thinks he can dodge something, he's pretty sure that he can. Because he's probably done it before, and he's probably done it wrong before as well. So he's learned his lessons and can do it pretty consistently. But even with the kind of troll crows that area had, he's still not that far behind. Again, one protoplasm death, which is extremely common, and he would probably take the lead at this point. So this is still a race. And again, even Boogie Tin can take down an opponent pretty quickly. We've seen it a lot during these races where Boogie Tin is the decider of the race. So this is still anyone's game. This is very close still.
Just wondering if any of them will discard the defense spray, or if anybody is going to use some bomb strats.
So now we have both racers momentarily in the cutscene for just a second. And Doc's going to have a little bit of advantage there. So I don't know exactly how long that cutscene takes. I don't know if I ever timed it, but it's not that long of a cutscene. And that's what separates them right now. So again, very close still. There's a lot of things that can happen between here and the next 20 minutes that could change who wins this.
I think it's slightly over a minute, if I remember correctly. I want to say it's a minute 10, but I'd have to take it to a timer again.
And if you're thinking of doing an Earthbound run there in TD land, that's one of the best things about this run is there's a lot of input breaks where you can get up and get a soda, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom. I mean, it's a lot of longer runs with a lot less input breaks for sure. So it's scattered throughout the run, whether it's the full glitchless or this run. So Because right now we got out of an input break with the runaway 5, and now we're in another one on the bus 2-3. So it's just all these little breaks here and about.
It's really good. It's like, oh yeah, I grabbed a drink and I forgot my snack, and you got 2 of them right back to back here, so you can quickly grab it.
So not a lot happening at this time, so feel free to read some donations. Just kidding. But that again is one of the benefits of an input break, but this can be one of the most boring sections of the game as well if you don't have to do anything during these breaks. But you can see Doc getting the 3'd. Only thing he really has to worry about here is Graveyard. If he can get up and around and trigger the zombie sequence and then get to the Lady of the Nights quickly, that's considered a win. Sometimes you can even get pincered in several different directions in Graveyard. I've had enemies on all 4 sides of me before. There's so much that can happen. You gotta be really careful. There's no real way to get around those enemies either if they start appearing, or you could just walk through. Either one is very possible. See Doc opting to use a skip sandwich to this section. That's an interesting play. It doesn't seem to be helping him at this point.
Ooh. Just watching that skip sandwich just fall off right when that fly was on his tail.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is he almost got pincered there as well. He had him on 3 sides, but the 4th was clear and he was able to get around it. But that's why that Graveyard is super scary. And those flies have kind of erratic movements. And so though they're not aggro to you yet, they can move in a lot of different directions really quickly, to the fact that you don't know which way to go. And you can see Doc here getting caught by those guys because they made random movements right as he started walking back towards the area that he'd come from after triggering the storyline there. And with the flies moving randomly right, there's nowhere for him to go, and he just got stuck. So
I do like how the fact that you can kind of, like I saw him earlier, just walk to those zombies after they're like, story trigger is like, I like brains, I'm going to stare at you now.
Here's Doc. Doc's using a defense strat there, so he basically healed or defended a lot of rounds in a row. The reason why I did that is Earthbound has a base run chance when you start the battle based on speed differences, and then you get a 10% chance every single round that goes by. So instead of running over and over again and going from 20% to 30% to 40%, he just kept defending until that got a little bit higher, so he took less damage in the interim and hopefully would have survived once he got that to like 50 or 60%. And it worked out for him, so he now triggers this cutscene, which also revives Paula and gives him a full heal, so he doesn't have to worry about the fact that Paula got taken out during that walk. So now we trigger Winters. I would have to mention Happy House here. See the sparkly eyes, big mouth, and handlebar mustache? You'll see him again, but now you'll never unsee.
I don't know, that mustache could use a little bit more work, in my opinion. But yeah, since this is the common thing that's always said, what are your opinions on this character that we get to control now in this part of the run?
You're asking if I'm Team Jeff or Team Jeff Hatred?
Yes.
There's a lot of back and forth of if Jeff is Bay or Jeff is Nay. And I tend to send the camp that Jeff is an awful character, but that's mainly because he's actually an awful character. So
the relief that I don't have to pussyfoot around with Jeff and how terrible he feels to me always.
Oh, I get the argument that he's very useful in the speedrun. I mean, it's a way that we make it very quick in the end of it. And for that, I commend him, but he's also a very terrible character.
Sometimes I just wish that you could actually just strap the big bottle rocket to him, just so he wouldn't miss for a change. Or low roll. Or just, beat Jeff.
But most runners will, no matter their opinion on Jeff, will say that the other worst character is about to be acquired by both members of the race. So you get basically, in my opinion, the two worst characters at the same time, but most people would agree you get at least the worst character during this time.
Well, it's the only appropriate friend for Jeff. Like, I just don't get it. It's like, Bubble Monkey already has the best friend in the game. Why hang out with Jeff?
So I think there's been people that would take offense at the Jeff hits his enemy comment. I've seen specifically Temple, who is in chat right now, who's many a boogie tent run to Jeff not hitting his opponents. Which means he can literally not hit the broadside of a barn being boogie tents. That was an interesting green by Doc. I don't know if he even meant to do that. It's just one of those things where he went for the dog, and the dog just happened to be green. The mechanics of green versus red and all that are just kind of still unknown in the Earthbound code, so we don't know why sometimes things just randomly are green. But that seems to be what happened there. I don't think he tried to do that.
I'm still interested to see what they're going to do. If they're going to play it safe and keep the defense spray, or they're going to destroy it. It's like Doc is going to hold on to it.
And actually, Ari took the exact same battle in the exact same way, and it was not green. So going back to sometimes you just have to shrug and say, I don't know.
Do note there is a little bit of delay, but as Doc has finished his stew and came to the new day, it's chat. You know what time it is. It's time to load up the lock with the purple prehistoric plesiosaur, the amicable ancient. It's time for Tessie Hack. Let's see those MS Paint Beasts.
We're actually going to get both Paint Beasts at once here, so we're going to have double Paint Beasts, so... Yeah, you can see Ari mentioned it too. Both of them took the exact same dogfight, literally the same positioning. One was green, one wasn't. That's Earthbound for you. Sometimes it likes you, sometimes...
Why did he get green and the other person didn't? Because Jeff. So yeah, right now we've got about... Did you say 40 seconds?
Yeah, they're still pretty close. One proto death could make the difference. Like most awesome games, this is full of plenty of memery. And the next one, so MS Paint Beast was first. Now we're coming up to what is lovingly called the hardest enemy in Earthbound, which is First Protoplasm. That has ruined many a person's run.
Yeah, and using that again, loading trigger there, rubbing into that corner to avoid the 100% spawn plate of the Gruff Goat there, because Jeff is not ram tough. Getting through that without it spawning because of that same kind of mechanic described earlier.
I can see the call for help there failed. It's actually, I think I'm going to say it's about 25% chance for it to fail on a call for help when there's one proto. You can see the second one did succeed. So now he's going to do defend run strats, which means, as we explained earlier, he's going to defend until he feels like he doesn't have an option anymore, until the run chance is high enough that he can just start to run. I'd say he's probably sitting at like 50-60% right now. And he got his run, which is good, because he was one hit away. He was hanging on by a prayer there.
It's like Doc's trying to set up for duck skip, and it's just not cooperating right now.
Yeah, as Duck tends to do. You want him to move left when he's in that position, but there he got it. It took him a little bit of time, but here's the problem. He ran from first battle. He didn't fight Duck, so if he gets in this next battle here, it's just like fighting first proto over again. And he got it. So he's going to have the exact same risks right now that he did at the very beginning. And this one would be even worse to fail. So he's got to really hope that he does not get into a very bad situation here. Oh, and there it is. That's exactly what I was fearing. Even though he had 31 HP, which should be enough to survive 3 hits, the proto hit the maximum damage on the last one, which is 11. And now he's sent back to the beginning, and we'll have to get around that Duck again, and also the second protoplasm again. And that is the difference. So now Ari has just taken the lead in this this race for the first time since Titanic Ants.
Yep, and as he did the duck skip the first time, he's either going to have to set up the duck skip again or just take the fight. Because the enemies do not respawn when you beat them or run them in this particular dungeon, so...
So since Ari did actually fight the Duck, he has enough attack now to take down protoplasms in 2 hits. As you can see, he's not done yet because this guy could, with another call for help, oh, there it is. He's still in trouble here a little bit if he doesn't start getting these guys down. Because they still hit for a good amount of damage, so one miss or another call for, oh, another one, wow. I would almost start running right now if I was him. He is not in a good shape right here.
Definitely like Doctor's choice to take the croissant once fighting the Duck. Just extra safety, just in case those protos decide to just ruin your day by calling for help all the time.
Yeah, he did get that. He got the roll and got away, which is... He has got to be breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief there because it was not a guaranteed run. It was more like, probably at that point, 60%-ish. But now he's going to Pond Cave, and looks like Doc's about to meet him there. So this is about neck and neck. You can see Ari having problems getting in. It's a 1 in 3 chance for that first plate to be empty. And they're going to kind of have to either just stutter very risky, or get that one for free. You can see Ari trying to change his mind and taking the red swirl there, which means Doc may actually take the lead here with a little luck. Wow, this is neck and neck at this point. So Doc just took the lead again, but Ari now, as soon as finishing this battle, will be right on his tail. So now it comes down to who stutters and who despawns better. Now Ari, knowing that 1 slug is an instant win for Jeff, goes ahead and takes 1 after he despawned the back enemy on that plate. You see Doc stuttering around those enemies. Almost got caught there, but was able to get around it. Ari choosing to get the hamburger, heal up for a little more safety versus Boogie Tin. Now they're both in the exact same location. Very, very close. And Doc having problems with that third zone in, which for some reason again can converge and be kind of a problem. And so Ari caught back up because of that problem he's been having. Oh, and Ari took the lead. Doc's still struggling with that despawn. And now Ari getting it on the second plate. Man, this is just going back and forth at this point.
This is Earthbound in a nutshell with these spawns, and sometimes you can just get those free walks that can just be game changers.
So Doc's stuck on the zone and Ari's stuck on the second plate. Oh my word. Oh, I'd be having anxiety attacks right now. So they're both about to get to the same point of making Bubble Monkey to throw down the rope, and there's one more spawn plate here. It's going to decide who comes out on top. And it'll be interesting to see who takes risks against Boogie Tin. Since they are this close, skipping the teddy bear could mean the difference. Risky, but could mean the difference between a win or a loss.
Oh my god. Did you see that sync with Bubble Monkey coming down? That is sync, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, they're less than 10 seconds away from each other. I'm going to be surprised if they both don't take a few risks here versus Boogie. I mean, this is the win right here. You have to take some risks now. So always remember to mash A during the Skyrunner entry, or else your dad, who hasn't seen you in 10 years and is very eager to get rid of you in his faulty machine, will tell you to press A on the control pad. He'll actually come over and tell you, which I've seen happen in people's runs before when they just forget to mash.
The worst thing that you can do is get into the Skyrunner thinking, oh yeah, I'm on my input break now, and leave before the Skyrunner starts vibrating, only to come back after taking your short break and see, Dr. Andernuts with his text box essentially calling you an idiot.
Yeah, so Doc's exactly 10 seconds behind. So I don't know. What do you think the risk they should take? I'm kind of stumped on this one because Ari could get the teddy bear and still be slightly ahead of Doc. But you got to think that he's a little worried about Doc's ability to mash a little bit more, menu a little bit better, I would think, just from having more experience. But maybe he's confident in his own. And there's some decisions to be made before this is over. And it'll be interesting to see what they do.
An important note is for Boogie Percent, this is another great opportunity to actually, if you're in the middle of a race, type in the chat and get it set up, .done, so that as soon as you get done and you grab the fly honey, you can instantly end. So, great opportunity during the Skyrunner scene to do it.
So Doc actually using phone a friend methodology to choose if he takes some risks or not. I was wondering what he'd decide, but apparently he's going to divert that to chat.
And that is an option. I mean, Jeff can still just decide something with a big bottle rocket roll. And, between taking that extra couple seconds to grab a teddy or any other safeties may not be a something that could pan out. However, not taking that and just going for it and getting it will save you that time. So,
and I've actually won a race by skipping the teddy before. I was behind going in. This was one of my strong deaths, and I was behind going into this final segment. Skipped the teddy, and I think I had a kid die in Boogie Tin, but not the kid I needed to finish the battle. So I had less mashing to do, and I ended up winning by a couple seconds due to that. So it can actually mean the difference if it's this close.
All I know is I have commentated on a run earlier during these group sections where there was a race decided by a death to Boogie. So.
And Harry's choosing to skip, so he's thrown down the gauntlet, which if Doc is watching, means that he's essentially required to skip it now too, unless he wants to just bank on the fact that Aries going to die to Boogie Tint.
Wrist strats incoming.
So you can see Ari choosing to do the, he lost Paula, which is actually good. That's actually best case. Oh, but 200. Oh, wow. So this gives Doc the opportunity to come back. But Doc didn't get that great of a roll either. This is going to be a very close one. Now, Doc got a better roll, but it's still, this is not forgone. This could be either one at this point. I don't even know. I can't even begin to tell you.
Miss Bottle Rocket. Oh, no.
Ooh, Ari pulled off the finish. Even though he got the lower roll of the big bottle rockets, he got the second hit and was able to get through it a little faster. Now, and plus Paul is dead. That saves him a lot of levels of grinding. You'd have to mash through a lot of text there that just he doesn't have to. So that's best case actually scenario. So it looks like he's gonna pull away with this victory.
Well, both runners actually got through the fight, so that's a sigh of relief. Impressive. So yeah, Ari had to do a little bit of less smashing going through that, and looks like he's now done with a official race time of 1:16:32. Congrats to Ari. GG's all around.
And Doc's going to come in right behind him. And you can see him mashing through a lot more text because of that. That was the biggest difference. Doc actually got the better bottle rocket roll, but then the second one missed, equaling that about out. So the real difference was there was no Paula text mashing. It's really going to save you a lot of time.
And he's done with a 1:17:14. So let's see, this race was decided by exactly 42 seconds.
All right, well, my congrats to Ari, and good show by both runners. Both will be moving on to brackets, so you'll see both of these guys again yet. And thank you for showing up and watching and letting us commentate, and we'll see you next race.
So that was the deciding factor for the group as they finish up. Let's see what else is up. So it looks like there's the 2D relay race going on Speed Gaming 1 currently. There is also going to be a Metroid Fusion race starting at 6 p.m. tonight on Speed Gaming 2. And then for those of you looking for more Earthbound action, there is an Earthbound race scheduled at 10:30 tonight on Speed Gaming 1. So lots of good content coming from Speed Gaming. Make sure to stick around, and thank you all for watching.